All right, let's watch Legal Eagle and his take on Kyle Rittenhouse.
A Wisconsin jury acquitted Kyle Rittenhouse for shooting 3 people, killing 2 during a racial justice protest.
As Jacob Blake.
In Kenosha. The Kenosha protest started after a white police officer shot Jacob Black. Mass protests then broke out in Kenosha, Wisconsin. At the time, Rittenhouse was a 17-year-old from Illinois who traveled to Kenosha after right-wing social media accounts called on people to...
Bro, look at this. Like, chatters, I need you to understand, like, this is America, okay? This is fucking America, dude. Like, how nuts. Unsub to the league take. Lol. Okay. Okay. Unsubscribe and have fun fucking hating your life playing League all day, okay? He shows the footage of him shooting people throughout. Really? Under no pretext. Oh, shut the fuck up.
To protect the city from riots.
I am an EMT. If you are injured, come to me.
Rittenhouse acted in the midst of a chaotic...
Wait, he gave his gun to someone else? I had not seen that. Pictures of blood as well. What about Nessa? He's a league player in the community. Guys, I'm fucking joking. You can play whatever the fuck you want. I've literally played with, you know, League of Legends silver rank recipient AOC as well. He's not an EMT, by the way. He was lying there.
Protest where many people were legally carrying guns. Bystander videos show that the 3 men that Rittenhouse shot had been in confrontations with him. Rittenhouse has now been found not guilty on all 6 counts arising from his conduct that day.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty.
So what happened at the Rittenhouse trial? Why did the jury conclude that he was not guilty? Is it a travesty of justice or a defensible outcome? There's no dispute that Rittenhouse killed 2 men and injured a 3rd, but as we talk about often on this channel, that's not the end of the analysis, and here it was only the beginning. Many people thought that when Kyle Rittenhouse admitted on the stand that he intentionally used deadly force on Rosenbaum and Huber, that was a huge tactical blunder, but intentional use of deadly force is exactly the thing that is privileged when you meet the requirements of self-defense, and this case hinged on whether self-defense applied or not.
Chilling with the homies.
Of self-defense.
You know, just a bunch of dudes just defending gas stations and stuff. Just normal American things. Okay, just saying. Me and the boys, we definitely aren't racist. Looking real Bass Pro topic today? Yeah, because, you know, if you wear this jacket in the state of Wisconsin, you could just open carry. Because technically I'm always hunting. You know what I mean? Me and the boys carrying our healing weapons. Not a phone in sight. Good one, chatter. No, that's not a Templar hat, dude. That's like, that person is doing what the anarchists do as well, to show that they're like there to help people as a medic. Also, I'm invisible.
And this case hinged on whether self-defense applied or not. And more so than most self-defense cases, this case turned on the nuances of both self-defense law and criminal procedure. It's not surprising to me that both sides got lots of stuff legally wrong. So let's talk about the law of self-defense in Wisconsin, because every state has different self-defense laws. And in Wisconsin, self-defense, like many...
Kind of sad to see a 17-year-old going through this. Truly a fucked up system. He should be worried about college, not riots. Yeah, totally, dude. He was really worried about the riots, dude. Man, poor guy, dude. Some of you are so fucking stupid. I can't, like, I can't even have a conversation with you. Oh, no. Yeah, most 17-year-olds do worry about college and not fucking riots, dumbass. Holy shit. Me and the boys after a war zone win? Yeah.
Many other states is an affirmative defense. In other words, the defendant has
I don't even know what this
has the
footage
burden
is.
of producing some evidence. They must put forth some evidence from which a jury can find that self-defense applied. This is generally called the burden of production. But then, once the defense has made this relatively minimal burden, the burden of proof then returns to the prosecution, which must disprove self-defense beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the highest standard in all of law. Now, every state has self-defense law that basically says a person who is not the aggressor is justified in using deadly force against an adversary when he or she reasonably believes that they're in imminent danger of death or serious bodily injury. Now, jurors aren't lawyers, so
What the fuck is that B-roll, dude?
juries receive jury instructions that include all the law that they will need to decide a case, hopefully written in plain English. The lawyers and the judge fight over the jury instructions, which will be the only law that the jurors receive in that particular case. Now, it is supposed to accurately summarize the law that the jurors are applying. And as you can imagine, the language of the jury instructions is extremely important. The Rittenhouse jury instructions summarize the requirements for self-defense in Wisconsin.
What? Keemstar literally crying over you, ratioing him over and over again?
I ratioed you. You're just mad because I ratioed you. You know who else ratios me? Hasan Piker.
Oh no! What a dumbass, dude! Oh, it's just so mad still, bro. I'm sorry I ratioed you into out of a job that you quit on your own and also out of a relationship. God damn. Chat, someone link this to me so I can reply. How do you reply to someone who's blocked? No, I don't want to make a sock account, dude. If I just like copy this link, I can quote tweet it, but I want to reply to it. I want to be under it. Okay, fuck it. This dumbass is still crying about how I ratioed him out of a relationship with someone near his daughter's age. You can reply to another reply. Did he delete it? Did he delete it? Don't tell me he deleted the fucking tweet already. Oh my God. Bro, he's ridiculous, dude. He is so scared, dude.
Why are you and Hasan Piker completely different fucking spectrums of the political landscape? Ratio and Keemstar. I don't know. One, nobody fucking likes me. I've accepted it. But two, you kind of cheated in all of this. You and Hasan Piker, both of you. Because you're political fucking hacks. Which means you come out and you say, I fucking love Trump or I love AOC or whatever the fuck. And you automatically get support because people are on the same fucking team. You have bad takes like Hasan Piker coming out saying, yeah, I love socialism. I love Bernie Sanders. But then he buys a $2 million fucking mansion or
Dude, by the way, every neoliberal in my fucking mentions on a regular basis is 100% in agreement with Keemstar, which I find, again, incredible. Goes to show you that they have zero fucking principles. Also, it's 2.7 million, Keem. Get it fucking right,
some
dude.
shit, right? He doesn't give any of his
But like, I didn't actually need to fucking buy a house. Turns out I literally can live inside of this fucking gnome's head. Rent free, as a matter of fact. I've been living there. I didn't realize I had so much fucking real estate. It's not like he has a brain in there. So, goddamn, dude. They hate me so much they agree with them? Yeah, 100%.
His fucking money to the people. Giant hypocrite. He doesn't get called out because he's on a team. So he gets team support. You're against cancel culture, but you're out here fucking calling out Disney Plus. You're calling out the fucking Star Wars series. You're literally trying to get this fucking actor fired, right? Huge hypocrite quartering, but you know what? You ratioed me. You want to know why? Because you're on a fucking team. I'm on a team. I'm on this guy's team.
Yeah, leftist, famously always on the same team.
Support me, guys. No one gives a fuck about your ratio. This is man shit between me and you. You're fucking wrong. And I know it and you know it. You fucking ugly little bitch that got fucking slapped by a man in a fucking dress and got so salty your pathetic ass went to YouTube and raised money to sue the guy in a dress that punched you. That's some bitch shit.
I think he's talking about, quarter pounder. I don't know. I don't really care. He's a fucking loser. Yeah, he definitely doesn't care about the ratio. That's why he's still talking about it fucking months and like. So did he delete this or what? No, it's still there. Why'd you guys say he deleted the tweet? His dumbass still crying about how I ratioed him out of a relationship with someone near his daughter's age, Lamau. Wouldn't have bought a house if I occupied so much space in his empty head rent free. Keemstar is a cautionary tale for future generations. So you mean to tell me the vagina has lips you want to see? Oh, God. Love that. Why am I trending? I think there's like some Pakistani players and stuff that trend as well. Like there's like a bunch of people that get looped in under the Hasan thing. Like cricket players, yeah. Did he just private his account? Shut the fuck up. There's no shot. Are you guys lying? I can't tell. No, he didn't. He didn't private his fucking account. Deleted the tweet because I don't want to spread misinformation. I'm farting articles that masks don't help and masks do help. So annoying. Looks like someone in the Twitch support partner department is going to get a lawsuit against them soon. Might want to do what's right before Friday. Something big is going down. Illegal discrimination in the workplace. Why am I looking at Keemstar's fucking dumbass? What is this? Woke? What is this? Be like knocking on the door?
I could tell a tranny from a mile. I can't say that.
Yeah, you can't say that. Wait, what? This is like Is he trying to cancel? Wait, first of all, Keemstar is literally transphobic. Did he like clip chimp Ethan? I don't think they should have kept this in, by the way. Like, he was doing a bit, but yeah, I don't know if he apologized for it already, but like, from your reply, we can't see his account. Oh, they removed it? They didn't? They took it out? Oh, okay. There it is. By the way, he literally fucking stops himself in the middle of the clip chimp. Yeah, he was LARPing as a hog. Anyway, let's keep going. Timestamps of the video. I try my best. 4 minutes. 8:43. Holy shit! This video is a landmine of terms of service, dude. This is a TOS landmine of a fucking video. He literally says in the clip you shouldn't say that. Yeah, I know. Not trying to watch you get banned. 708 to 712. Kyle walking. Kyle pointing at crowd images. Kyle with his arms up. Ambulance passes by. No, we're going to watch it. This is a good video, probably.
Wisconsin as the defendant believed that there was an actual or imminent unlawful interference with the defendant's person, and the defendant believed that the amount of force the defendant used or threatened to use was necessary to prevent or terminate the interference, and the defendant's beliefs were reasonable. The defendant may intentionally use force which is intended or likely to cause death or great bodily harm only if the defendant reasonably believed that the force used was necessary to prevent death or great bodily harm to himself. Now, in a situation like this, a reasonable belief doesn't mean true. One can have a reasonable belief but still be mistaken. Reasonableness is determined from the standpoint of the defendant in the situation at issue, not after the fact. And as an aside, the law of self-defense gets slightly more complicated when you're applying it to different varieties of homicide and manslaughter because the mental state required is different for each of those offenses. But you can read the jury instructions themselves and see how the court modified the general rules that apply to self-defense to apply to each of the different charges in this case. It's all written down in relatively plain English, and it's worthwhile. You might be on a jury someday, and you might be faced with similar jury instructions. Now, Wisconsin doesn't have what's called a duty to retreat. In other words, Wisconsin law doesn't require someone whose life is in danger to exercise all opportunities to flee before resorting to deadly force. But jurors can consider whether
Hold on.
someone tried to move away from danger as they assess the reasonableness of a self-defense claim. Juries are still allowed to consider whether the defendant had an opportunity to retreat to determine whether or not it was necessary to use deadly force in self-defense.
Fuck.
And Wisconsin law doesn't quite go as far as stand your ground states, which...
Dude, I just fucking hit the starting soon screen because I was like... Late? Stop saying late. Shut up. This is so stressful to watch. Yeah, I know.
remove any
Wait, there's nothing here, I don't think.
consideration of de-escalating or fleeing before resorting to deadly force. However, as we'll talk about later, Wisconsin does have a duty to retreat where the person provokes the attack against them. Now, at common law, a majority of jurisdictions required a duty to retreat before being allowed to engage in deadly force in self-defense. But today, a duty to retreat is required in only a minority of US states. Here is a duty to retreat instruction from Massachusetts. Quote, a person cannot lawfully act in self-defense unless he or she has exhausted all other reasonable alternatives before resorting to force. A person may use physical force in self-defense only if he or she she could not get out of the situation in some other way that was available and reasonable at the time. The Commonwealth, that is the state of Massachusetts, may prove the defendant did not act in self-defense by proving beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant resorted to force without using avenues of escape that were reasonably available and which could not have exposed the defendant to further danger. Again, that's the law of Massachusetts, and it's not the law of Wisconsin. And it should go without saying that the Kenosha jury was applying the law of Wisconsin at the time. And we'll talk about the implications of this particular aspect of Wisconsin law in a second. But the final nuance of self-defense at issue is that of provocation. A person who provokes an attack cannot claim legal self-defense, but it's more complicated than just that. The Wisconsin law on provocation states, a person who engages in unlawful conduct of a type likely to provoke others to attack him or her, and thereby does provoke an attack, is not entitled to claim the privilege of self-defense against such attack, except when the attack which ensues is of a type causing the person engaging in the unlawful conduct to reasonably believe that he or she is in imminent danger of death or great bodily harm. Okay, so let's break down this law on provocation, which is an exception to the exception of self-defense, which is an exception to the ability to use deadly force against someone. So let's say you engage in unlawful conduct likely to provoke others. Well, then you can't claim self-defense, except that you can if your provocation causes others to use effectively deadly force against you. Now, we'll get back.
Which is the reason why I think, which is part of the reason why if the other person had shot and killed him, they would have gotten off on self-defense. Or if the other person with a skateboard, were able to like hit him in the head, who got killed, if he was able to successfully fucking knock him out and like even kill him with the skateboard, he most likely would have been able to get away with that. There is a note-taking emote. It's Peepo G, my friend.
Back to this in a second, but the law continues. In such a case where the provoked attacker uses deadly force against the provoker, the person engaging...
Which, by the way, for the record, this is why I'm saying that, like... This is why I'm saying that this creates, like, a really fucking dangerous situation at functionally every single protest. You could even say that it impacts First Amendment laws. Like, the right to peacefully assembly is disrupted when there is no reasonable expectation of peace at any sort of assembly, with the knowledge that, like, everyone's going to be fucking armed. And that's psychotic to me, because I am not Ameribrained, so it's like very weird to me that basically it's like a shoot 'em up, you know, it's basically a free-for-all shoot 'em up video game. It's like a gun dungeon, okay? And whoever gets to fucking do the kill first gets away with it. Self-defense. Enter the gungeon,
unlawful
boys.
Conduct is privileged to act in self-defense, but the person is not privileged to resort to the use of force intended or likely to cause death to the person's assailant, unless the person reasonably believes that he or she has exhausted every other reasonable means to escape from or otherwise avoid death or great bodily harm at the hands of his or her assailant. So here, you only get to use deadly force to resist the deadly force that you provoked if you exercise a duty to retreat. Wisconsin law stipulates that the provocateur must attempt every other reasonable option to escape, avoid, or prevent the attack before resorting to deadly force if they were the ones that provoked the secondary attack. Now, we'll talk about the general law of self-defense and whether it applies under the factual circumstances as we know them in a second. But first, I want to talk about the exception of provocation, because a number of people believe that Kyle Rittenhouse provoked the attacks themselves and therefore couldn't use the privilege of self-defense, that by brandishing a firearm or placing himself in the situation, he provoked the attack. Now, there's three issues here. First, is there unlawful conduct? Did Kyle Rittenhouse engage in unlawful conduct that could constitute provocation and therefore prevent the defense of self-defense? Well, Judge Schroeder granted defense motions to dismiss the 2 misdemeanor charges against Rittenhouse. I think a lot of people put too much emphasis on those lesser included offenses. The charges were for possessing a dangerous weapon as a minor and a misdemeanor misdemeanor charge for breaking curfew. And arguably, Wisconsin law has an exception that allows minors to possess shotguns and rifles as long as they're not short-barreled. But more importantly, provocation requires...
Okay, well, you gotta admit that that's like a ridiculous fucking law, though. That's a hunting law. Like, that's a law specifically carved out for hunting. Okay? So that, like, white kids who hunt in Wisconsin don't get in fucking trouble for no reason. God, USA laws are so fucked up, dude. It's just so insane. He isn't talking about the spirit of the law. Oh, that's true. Stop saying he was hunting people, though. That doesn't matter. You can't hunt people. Also, you shouldn't even be able to have a fucking AR. Like, AR-15s should not be considered. If you're using 5.56 bullets, or if you're using an AR-15 in general, like, that's not a hunting rifle. You can't hunt with that. So that's incredible. Like, what the fuck? Like, we all know what's happening there, okay? Yes, you can, lol. Yes, you can, lol. Yeah, you can hunt with anything, idiot. You can hunt with the RPG, too. Shut the fuck up. I don't know why every gun nut literally turns into someone who is like willingly and purposely misunderstanding my point. Like, you know exactly what I mean. If you're a fan of guns, you know exactly what I mean when I say AR-15s are not for hunting. Okay? But every fucking gun nerd's like, oh, you absolutely could though. You technically could though. You could use it on deer, dude. You know what I mean? Why are you acting like someone who doesn't know exactly what I'm talking about?
Is unlawful conduct of a type likely to provoke others. Now, even if those two lesser included charges had stuck, they might not have been sufficient to rise to the level of provocation, mainly because Wisconsin is an open carry state. Mere open carry of a firearm is A, not unlawful, and B, possibly not the type likely to lead to provoking others. Now, I'm oversimplifying here. This is a highly fact-specific analysis, but it's not unreasonable that someone might not find that the gun possession, qua gun possession, didn't lead to provocation. Think about it. Is it the possession of the gun that provokes the attack, or is it the possession of a gun by a minor, or possession of a gun that crossed state lines that leads to someone provoking an attack? If you think it's the former, well, that's not illegal, and the latter probably doesn't provoke an attack. No one says, oh, the reason I'm attacking you is that you're a minor with a firearm, not that you're carrying a firearm in the first place. And additionally, breaking curfew probably couldn't be the requisite predicate.
Kyle being kicked in the head? Okay.
Because lots of people were breaking curfew, and
it's fine. Those aren't TOS images, chat. Shut the fuck up. Actually, a lot of these like moments that I thought were going to be TOS haven't really been TOS. He's been very careful with it. In that clip with his hands in the air as the cops told him not to reach or there shoot. So that's a really interesting take there, chatter. I wonder why you're bringing that up. It almost feels
didn't
like
lead to provocation. Think about it. Is
Hold
it
on
the
one second.
possession of the gun that provokes the attack, or is it the possession of a gun?
Do you guys want to explain to
by
me
a
why?
minor, or
Do you guys know why he has to put his hands up when he's around cops when he has an AR-15 on him? If having an AR-15 on your arm alone is not enough for people to be threatened by you, then why isn't he walking up to the cops with the AR-15 held in the same way that he was holding it earlier? It's just like very weird, very strange. It almost feels like I don't know. It almost feels like there was a reasonable assumption by those who fucking were trying to stop him, to, you know, stop and fucking get his gun away from him, considering that, but he didn't want to fucking do that with the other people, but he certainly did that with the cops. The cops are scared. They're telling him to put his hands up, and that's threatening, but it's not. For other protesters, they can't think that that's threatening, possibly. It's almost like it'd be a threat, and the fucking inches of difference between brandishing and actually holding it on your sling, but still in a ready position, is not that significant in an active shooting scenario. That's not a bad take. You only think that's a bad take because you're fucking biased into exclusively seeing Kyle Rittenhouse as the most innocent man in America. The whole point is we have best practices when with respect to like how you can carry a gun around and shit like that, which people usually do not abide by. But we have best practices for this reason, because when cops who have guns and are very trigger happy are running around, okay, they will shoot and kill you because you are a threat when you have a gun on your side. Okay?
Or possession of a gun.
Anyway, where were we? Let's move past that. That's real strange, though. Maybe anarcho-absurdist, or maybe you're biased because you didn't watch the trial and get your news from Twitter threads. Oh, God, I wonder what double community that fucking idiot comes from. Is it... I'm currently watching a video and describing something to you, but instead of, I don't know, recognizing the point I'm making here, which is that, like, if you have an AR-15 on your fucking side on a sling, and you're going up to cops, like, especially after shots have been fired in the area, they're going to assume that you're a threat unless you put your fucking hands up. So why is he a fucking threat? Or why does he recognize that he's a threat to cops, but he's not necessarily a threat to other protesters? Just interesting, dude. I'm new here. Will Hasan unpause the video? No, I never unpause. All right, where the fuck was I? We did this already.
At the victims and claimed that when he was pointing his gun, it wasn't a dangerous provocation. Now, you could argue that pointing your gun at someone is assault or misuse of a firearm, but that probably doesn't work if the reason that you're pointing the gun at someone in the first place is for the purposes of self-defense. And in fact, there are Wisconsin cases to this effect. Though on the other hand, Wisconsin courts have an interesting history in analyzing the provocation exception. For example, in a 1975 Wisconsin Supreme Court case, the court held that a defendant was a provocateur by virtue of openly bringing a gun into a tavern. The Wisconsin Supreme Court held, quote, the defendant himself testified that after being slapped, he went out to his car, got his shotgun, loaded it, and returned to the tavern. As he was entering the tavern, he was grabbed from the side by someone, and he pushed that person away. He saw Freddie Jones start toward him, and he started shooting. He stopped after 4 shots and after Jones was out of sight. The defendant requests that the court grant him a new trial in the interest of justice. We find no merit to this contention. When the defendant left the tavern, got his shotgun out of the trunk, loaded it, and returned to the tavern, he became the provoker. Additionally, there's an 1883 Wisconsin Supreme Court case that says, quote, if one points a loaded gun at another and the other grapples with him to prevent the shooting and is shot, it is murder. And this
Luckily, we've evolved from such antiquated understandings of the law. Luckily, we've evolved in 2021 to decide that, you know, things are different now. You know? Baron Strauss, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Yeah. Wisconsin was a little bit more woke in 1883. You know, it was a more civilized time back then in Wisconsin as opposed to now. Okay.
This is especially important in the context of the Rittenhouse shooting. Even Rittenhouse's testimony seems to indicate that Rosenbaum didn't lunge at Rittenhouse until he raised his gun at Rosenbaum, and that the reason, or at least one of the reasons that Kyle Rittenhouse shot Rosenbaum is that he feared that Rosenbaum would take his gun away and use it against him. And we'll talk about that in a second. And
they had to use that because otherwise it would not be reasonable. Which, by the way, ironically, is the exact same fucking defense that Ahmaud Arbery's murderers are using right now. Shocking, by the way. And I know I'm not showing the screen because of the shooting. He's showing the shooting.
Obviously, you'd have to run a provocation analysis in every instance where Kyle Rittenhouse used deadly force. It's not a one-size-fits-all. You have to look at every instance individually. And
that's precisely why their defense had to also establish that Rosenbaum was not just lunging at him, but also lunging at him and, well, not just lunging at him, but like trying to grapple and get the gun from him. And that's why the only instance where they show in that footage, if you watch the video, you'd understand it's self-defense. My friend, I'm going to run this video one more time until the end, before we get to the actual shooting, so you get a better understanding. This right here.
Actually important in the context.
This right here, okay? Look right here. This right here, okay? Where Rittenhouse is running backwards and putting his gun in the air with Rosenbaum running towards him is not as clear-cut as an instance of self-defense as you think it is. I know that other content creators have probably told you that is 100% self-defense and maybe even made like a bunch of different rape analogies and shit like that, and you probably think you're well-armed. But the reason why it's not as clear-cut and is the same reason why the defense team tried to, as best as they could, make sure that they didn't use this footage. Okay? And even talk about the resolution. Because lunging at him after someone brandishes a weapon towards you is not as clear-cut an instance of self-defense as you think it is. You can't just have a fucking gun and literally point it at someone because you think they said, or they actually said, I'm going to kill you. Okay? You can't do that. And the defense team knew that. And that's precisely why the defense literally said it wasn't just that like the person was lunging, but also there was fear. There was real fear that he would have taken the gun and killed him with it. Yeah, that's why Kyle repeats so often that the guy said he was going to kill him, that he was going to kill him, that he was going to kill him, and also he was going to take his gun away and kill him, that he was going to take his gun away and kill him. Because if it's just that, like, yeah, some dude fucking starts rushing at me, okay? Some dude starts fucking rushing at me, which is why I fucking pulled out the gun. Or I pulled out the gun because I pulled out the gun and the dude started rushing at me, is not as clear-cut an instance of self-defense as you think it is. Just because you watch Legal Eagle doesn't make you an expert. Dude, I've been talking about this fucking case for like a month now. What the fuck are you talking about? Why don't you get upset at Legal Eagle, you fucking neoliberal dipshits? Don't get upset at me. Get upset at him. He's saying that too. I go way beyond Legal Eagle's fucking point of view with what I'm stating. I think that it's fucking ridiculous that you could even have a gun at a protest. Like, this is insane. Like, you can't just fucking say, don't rush a guy with a gun then, lole, and think that that is like how the law should work, okay? I know that that's like fun for your whatever fucking incel forum that you're in, but like, that's not how the law should work, and that's not even how the law works. If you don't have a fucking gun and the other person does, I mean, how many times have I talked about this, bro? How many fucking times have I talked about this with respect to cops? That like they kill unarmed people all the time for like lunging at them, and that's completely unacceptable. Why is it any fucking different? Like, what do you mean? It's just like whoever has the gun wins in every situation. Sorry, I have my power up. I have a gun. I can do whatever I want now, and it's legal. Is the verdict fucked or are the laws? The laws are fucked and the verdict is fucked. Like, he won. Dude, the prosecution sucked ass too. Let's be real. The fact that like proportionality does not even factor into this fucking thing. The fact that like you can string on a bunch of other extra kills and maimings. Okay. When you get one kill that you can reasonably establish in the eyes of the law, if you rip it of its additional context, and then you can just get kill streaks, is absolutely ridiculous. The fact that they wouldn't even give him a fucking slap on the wrist is ridiculous. It's crazy. Yeah, the prosecution was dog shit too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, fucking, Call of Duty is the reason why we're here. Like, shut the fuck up, idiot. What the fuck's wrong with you? You have a faux hawk, okay? Plus you're white, plus ratio, plus L. Plus you fell off. Dude, you get into a single fight and you're just allowed to blast every single person that comes at you now? Yeah, straight up, dude. Straight up. That's how it works. The point is the chaser could have backed off. Dude, if you have a gun and you fucking point it at someone and then that person rushes at you, that's not a clear-cut instance of self-defense. That's an escalation, okay? Because the gun is a threatening object. So if you fucking point it at someone and someone rushes at you, okay, you can't just always, unless we're living in America, but in every other fucking country, that you're in the wrong there, okay? You're in the wrong. You're initiating. And that's why it's like, I can't fucking do this. Like, I can't put this in my brain. And this notion that, like, he didn't blast everyone, just the people who were a danger to him, is the exact same energy as, like, Your Honor, you're calling me a serial killer, yet leading up to the serial killing that I did, I had left so many people unmurdered. Like, what kind of fucking take is that? I know I killed his family while I was drunk driving, but think about all the times I didn't actually fucking drunk drive or kill people when I was drunk driving. Okay. He literally ran away from a child rapist. Yeah, exactly. Except he didn't know he was a fucking child rapist, so it doesn't even factor into the decision. You can't just fucking post-mortem decide like, oh, this was an acceptable legal kill. Okay? If he knew that that person was actually a fucking convicted pedophile and shot him, he would be in prison right now because that would be reasonable grounds for premeditated murder. So whenever you bring up the fact that he's like a fucking child rapist or whatever the fuck, well, you're actually hurting your own case. So shut the fuck up. Anyway.
Rittenhouse's testimony seems to indicate that Rosenbaum didn't lunge at Rittenhouse until he raised his gun at Rosenbaum, and that the reason, or at least one of the reasons that Kyle Rittenhouse shot Rosenbaum is that he feared that Rosenbaum would take his gun away and use it against him. And we'll talk about that in a second. And obviously you'd have to run a provocation analysis in every instance where Kyle Rittenhouse used deadly force. It's not a one-size-fits-all. You have to look at every instance individually.
And there was intent, because there is a video, not saying he wanted to shoot leftists, but there's a video saying, like, I wish I had my fucking AR-15 right now so I could shoot at those people, when he was talking about a bunch of people that he thought were, you know, stealing shit. So yeah, there is definitely intent there too, except, you know, You wouldn't know that if you watched the case, or at least you would know that if you watched the case. But if you're a fucking, biased dipshit who wants to maintain the innocence of Kyle Rittenhouse like you're in his fucking defense team or something, then you wouldn't want to admit that because, the judge didn't allow you to use that. So there's that too.
And if the jury had found that there was nothing unlawful that led to provocation, or if there were illegal things going on, those.
Dude, I saw people being like, well, that was 2 weeks prior, so it's completely unrelated. Or that was actually about shooting at people stealing from a CVS and not like shooting people at that night in that instance. Like people were doing he's not literally saying the N-word in this moment in time defense for Kyle Rittenhouse, basically. These charges don't think pointing a firearm at someone is a deadly threat, obviously have only handled a firearm in COD. Yeah, when you go to a gun range, try to do what Kyle Rittenhouse did. See how that works out for you. Don't do that, actually, because you might get fucking shot. Don't do that. Definitely don't do that.
Ones that were leading to the provocation. Their analysis to this exception probably would have ended there, and they would have found that provocation didn't apply. It's only where there is provocation do we get to the next questions. But assuming that that first hurdle had been met, you get to the next one, imminent danger. Even when someone provokes an attack, they can regain the right to use deadly force where that person reasonably believes that he is in imminent danger of death or great bodily harm.
And that's how you get the fucking string of kills, baby. That's how you get a kill streak, imminent danger.
And he may lawfully act in self-defense. Since this is essentially the same standard as self-defense in the first instance, given that the jury must have thought Kyle Rittenhouse acted in self-defense, they probably would have found that this exception to the exception applied, even if they got to this question. And so if they got over those two first hurdles, they then would have had to get over the third hurdle, which is the duty to retreat. That's the final issue in terms of whether provocation can apply, and assuming the first two hurdles are met. The third clause says that the person who provokes the attack cannot use or threaten force unless he believes that he has exhausted all other opportunities to escape. If the jury got to this question, they could have felt that he had no choice under the circumstances. We don't know, and one of the prior issues might have precluded even getting to this question. But if the jury did reach this question, then they felt that Kyle Rittenhouse either had no opportunity to escape or had exhausted all of those opportunities. If that's the case, whether Wisconsin had a general duty to retreat might not have changed the overall outcome here anyway. Anyone who says that this is a simple case of self-defense or that it's cut and dry is definitely wrong. But so far,
You hear that? Your fucking God, neoliberals, your God is saying that you're fucking wrong for thinking that this is a clear-cut self-defense case. That's weird, man. That's so crazy that don't those guys fucking love this dude? Like all the globe heads on Twitter fucking absolutely love this dude. I think I've probably had like 10,000 people come through in here to be like, this is a clear-cut case of self-defense. Legal Eagle is a neolib god. That's weird. I mean, he's all right. Like, I think he does a decent job. But the overall, no, a lot of people love, like, neoliberals love authority figures. They just love, he's a left-leaning Andy, but he's definitely a left-leaning lawyer, but how strong is the NRA's influence and reach into the judicial system in executing individuals like judges, executing individuals like judges and etc.? The NRA's influence is so pervasive that this is not even like that. This is a case to begin with. That this is not like a clear-cut violation of the law. And what I mean by that is not that like this isn't one way or the other, whether it's self-defense or not. A lot of our laws are absolutely guided by our gun culture that the NRA has absolutely fucking played a significant role in developing, and also our laws that the NRA has played a significant role in writing. And what I mean by that is the fact that Kyle Rittenhouse, as a 17-year-old, could take a straw-purchased AR-15 and walk around a protest is because of the NRA. Is because the NRA makes it virtually impossible to write reasonable legislation that restricts where and when you can have a gun. That's what I mean when I say the NRA's point of view has and the NRA's like actions have absolutely created this situation where like Americans get away with doing vigilante justice and shit like that. That's why I say that this is like a totally fucked situation. So NRA's influence shows more on a fundamental political level? Absolutely. Yes.
We've talked about the exception to the exception, that is provocation. Let's now talk about whether the original exception, self-defense, applied or could reasonably have applied in this particular case. Let's talk about the facts as we know them from the trial. Now, warning, these videos are graphic, but let's talk about what the relatively uncontested testimony and these videos.
You take a gun to an active area of unrest and that's not considered a provocation, yeah, and you're in like violation of the curfew, which also those protesters are as well. Cops will beat the shit out of the protesters because they're in violation of curfew. But when you're a fucking gun-toting, gun-loving, God-fearing American jihadist, then of course you're a totally cool, fine, and dandy to be there, and cops will give you fucking water bottles. So there's that chill aspect of the law too. This country is fucking broken, dude. This country is like brain broken. Okay, Ameribrain. The biggest political streamer literally spreading misinformation. Not a single thing I have said has been misinformation. Actually, you know what? I'm going to unban him. Please go ahead with your sock account. Explain to me what the misinformation was. Unless you want to get banned. Very quickly explain with your sock account what the misinformation was. Or you will get banned. It's not misinformation if it frustrates you because you have a worldview that is different. Okay. A sock account is when you make like a fake account really quickly to like post shit in the chat. No, I unbanned him. I literally unbanned him. I unbanned him. I want to hear from him. I want to hear what he means with misinformation. That's a pretty serious fucking offense, dude. How's West Hollywood? Oh. Ay. Fucking self-defense yourself, dude.
Shows. Rittenhouse.
Okay, I can't show the rest of this video, okay? Go do some self-defense, dude. That's the best you got? Jesus Christ. The craziest thing about this whole case is the fact that you can argue self-defense with the fact that a 17-year-old kid can have an army gun outside. I mean, that's just America shit. I hate how people can't back up their own argument because that's it. Show it or prove a point or will Twitch insta-ban you. Wait, what? No, I will instantly ban you if you can't. If you come in here and you say something as severe as like the largest political streamer is actually fucking spreading misinformation. That's a big fucking line. I want to know. I would love to correct myself if I'm spreading some misinformation. So worst part is politicians will Western values. Show it or prove or will Twitch insta-ban you. Not even the biggest. Who's not the biggest political Twitch streamer? There's bigger political Twitch streamers. I didn't know that. I'm not the biggest Twitch streamer, but I'm the biggest political Twitch streamer. Anyway, let's keep going. From this point on, I believe there is going to be some...
and his friend Dominic Black testified that they went to Kenosha to protect a car dealership called CarSource. The two owners of the dealership told jurors that they never asked anyone to protect CarSource. During the protest...
Wait a minute, what? Wait a minute.
Rittenhouse and his friend Dominic Black testified that they went to Kenosha to protect a car dealership called CarSource. The two owners of the dealership told jurors that they never asked anyone to protect CarSource.
Maybe the people that are spreading political misinformation and have much bigger fucking platforms than myself are people like Tucker Carlson, but what do I fucking know, dude? I'm just a Twitch streamer, you know? plot twist.
During the protest, a small group of 8 to 9 people were gathered at the dealership. Kyle Rittenhouse that night was separated from the rest of his group and jogged towards one of the car source parking lots. Kyle Rittenhouse apparently sees Joshua Zeminski is nearby, armed with a pistol. Rittenhouse continues to run towards car source. Rosenbaum chases Kyle Rittenhouse. Rosenbaum
Remember, famously, they lied and said this was a Molotov cocktail.
throws
That's a bag, dude. It's a bag with like fucking, I think like an empty Diet Coke in it or something. Remember when conservatives said that that was a fucking,
used to run towards car source. Rosenbaum
watch
chases
this. Remember that? Conservatives used to say that that plastic bag, it was a bag from the mental hospital. Remember conservatives said that that was a Molotov cocktail that they threw at him, and they said it over and over and over again, and they kept repeating that fucking lie, like, you know, for months, actually. Do you remember? I remember. Did any of those guys ever get fucking, did any of those guys ever even face the same level of opposition that I get from the fucking weirdo neolibs claiming that I'm willingly and purposely spreading misinformation? Remember when liberals said he crossed state lines with a gun? That is true. That's true. We found out that the gun had crossed the state lines prior. It was a straw purchase, so it was still an illegal firearm that he was not supposed to have on him. But yeah, you're right. He didn't actually cross state lines with the gun. I do remember. Except there's a difference between claiming that someone has a fucking Molotov cocktail thrown at him when it's clear cut in a fucking video, when it's just a plastic bag, which we knew immediately after looking at the footage, and fucking assuming that someone brought a fucking AR-15 across state lines. Yeah, watch out for that tactical plastic bag, baby.
is Kyle Rittenhouse. Rosenbaum throws a plastic bag behind Kyle Rittenhouse, which lands on the ground. A shot is fired from someone else about 100 feet away. Kyle Rittenhouse turns around and stops as he gets to some parked cars and shoots the unarmed Rosenbaum 4 times in quick succession, once in the back. Kyle Rittenhouse then runs away from the scene. A loose crowd starts to follow Kyle Rittenhouse.
He goes, that guy just shot someone. That's what they're saying. Here.
Scene. A loose crowd starts to follow Kyle Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse trips, falls to the ground.
Here it is. The defense called it a metallic plastic bag, as if that's more threatening. Remember when white wingnuts edited the fucking, or right-wing nationalists edited the video to make it seem like there was fire coming out of the bag to deliberately spread misinformation? I do remember, yes. Your Honor, my client was tactically ascertaining the everyday carry that many violent perpetrators use, which is a tactical metallic plastic bag. It's called a metal bag attack. You ever seen a Mylar balloon, sir? Those things are very dangerous when they actually end up hitting power lines and taking out the entire block's energy. That's right. That's what we were seeing here. A tactical plastic metal bag being deployed, which is, of course, significantly more dangerous than an AR-15, which is a healing gun. Nowhere near as dangerous as the top of the hour ad break, though, Your Honor, which comes at the top of every hour. It's only 60 seconds, but if you'd like to defend yourself against those top of the hour ad breaks, all you need to do is subscribe, sir, Your Honor. You can do that for $5, or you can do that for free with a Twitch Prime. That is, if you have an Amazon Prime account that you've connected to your Twitch account, you get one free Prime subscription a month, Your Honor. That's right. Now, there's also another way you can, wait for a gifted sub. Maybe someone that I've banned. In an effort to get unbanned, they will gift subs. But if that doesn't happen, Your Honor, the best way to do it is with the Twitch Prime. There is the 1 minute ad break now. Thank you, Southern Boy Drawl, for making 10 people no longer see the ads. Lol, the best take, woke boy. You honestly have such bad takes on Rittenhouse. The American citizen has a right to self-defense. Just like us chatters have a right to self-defense from the top of the hour ad break. Dude, you can't fucking do that. You can't, try to bait me into an ad break while I'm doing the ad break. It's too late. You really don't realize that he didn't just shoot because he was chasing him, but rather he previously threatened to kill him with his rifle in front of other witnesses, chased him, kill him with his rifle in front of other witnesses, chased him and lunged at his gun. Stay male libtard. He didn't cross the state with a gun. His friend that owned it had it and got it there. Get your shit straight. I didn't say he crossed the state line with a gun. That's not what I said. I thought that was the case. Found out that it wasn't the case. And I don't say that. Your Honor, my client was LARPing as Anna from Overwatch. The only reason why they fucking rushed the... Okay, I'm not going to show you the rest of this footage, by the way, because there's blood here.
Sits upright and points his gun at one person who backs away. He shoots at a man who does sort of a half jump kick but backs away after the shot. At roughly the same time, Anthony Huber hits Kyle Rittenhouse with a skateboard. Rittenhouse fires a shot. Huber picks up his skateboard and runs away. Another shot is fired in either the direction of Huber or Gage Grosskreutz. Huber drops to the ground. Grosskreutz then puts his hands up while armed with a pistol. As he's making a move toward or to the side of Rittenhouse, Rittenhouse then fires at Grosskreutz, hitting him once in the bicep. Now, this is, of course, a hopefully neutral oversimplification.
Okay, so I want to show you some of it. I mean, you've probably seen this a million times at this point, dude.
There are a lot of...
Like, the guy kicks him in the head. He shoots at the guy. He misses, okay? The guy runs away.
Facts.
Other guy comes in. I want to show you how hard he hits him in the head with a skateboard, by the way. The deadly skateboard.
Of course, a hopefully neutral...
Here, I'll show you this part.
Oversimplification. There are...
So the head kick, shoots, misses, okay? Pepela civil suit incoming. Oh, yeah.
Of other facts.
This is what they're saying. And I've heard so many fucking people be like, oh, dude, this is assault with a deadly weapon. Okay? Basically fucking fell on him. The head kick didn't miss, but the skateboard just falls on him with a skateboard, which they made it seem like was assault with a deadly weapon, specifically so that, he could justify murdering him. Okay? Okay? Skateboard, deadly weapon, rifle, self-defense. Obviously. Duh, dude. And that's the NRA, by the way.
Base. This is a...
He gets off of him. I don't know if he shoots him. He gets off of him and he shoots him after, I think, right?
Charge situation, even with video footage.
And oh, no, he shoots him while he's on top of him. He falls on top of him. He shoots him.
Not an easy case in either direction. So.
And then he shoots the other. And then he shoots the other person in the arm. Yeah, he shoots him while he's on top of him. Sorry, I thought he would was. The fact that the video 2 weeks prior to the shooting was not allowed as evidence. Yeah, of course not, dude. That's like, these are healing bullets. The 2 weeks prior provocation and his sentiment is not relevant to the case. The guy was the guy who fell on him with the skateboard, who was like trying to pin him into the ground. That guy actually was trying to murder him with a deadly weapon, aka a skateboard. But he was using his tactical AR-15, his healing AR-15, as a self-defense weapon at the time. Do you realize that the skateboard can kill a person? So what does an AR-15 do if a skateboard can kill a person? Do you think it tickles people? You know, you can bring a skateboard to a school. You can't bring a gun to a school. I wonder why. It's fucking bullshit. They should change that. Also, unfortunately, there aren't clear-cut, well-defined rules on escalation or disproportionate use of force in the United States of America. There aren't like clear-cut, well-defined rules on escalation and unjustifiable use of force in retaliation in most of these fucking places. And that's, thankfully that's because of the NRA. And
was this self-defense? You can look at those facts and see a murder. You can look at those facts and find self-defense. Two diametrically opposed beliefs can both be reasonable at the same time. There are a ton of open questions here. Was the use of force proportionate in every encounter? Was the use of force reasonable in every encounter? Did Rittenhouse provoke any of those reactions? But the videos and testimony show a chaotic situation and people acting quickly. Now, no blanket assertions can be made. You have to run the self-defense analysis for each incident individually, including
what's in 1511?
the shots fired at the people that weren't Rosenbaum, Huber, or Grosskreutz. With the provocation argument aside, one might look at these incidents in question and decide that they were self-defense. After all, in the latter two incidents, Kyle Rittenhouse was fending off what was arguably an attack with a skateboard, and in another, the man admitted he drew a gun on Rittenhouse. But one might also reasonably conclude that one or more of these incidents were not self-defense and were therefore murder. After all, in the first incident, Rosenbaum, an unarmed man, threw a bag of clothes at Rittenhouse, which didn't land anywhere near Rittenhouse, after which Rittenhouse points his gun at him, and then Rosenbaum moves at Rittenhouse, or apparently towards the gun, and Rittenhouse shoots him 4 times, once in the back. And
come on, bro. Come the fuck on, dude. I think just, pussies should not have a gun.
yes,
That's
I'm
what
aware
I have
of
to say.
Rittenhouse's self-serving testimony about the preceding incidents. What I'm saying is that reasonable minds can differ. And
Jesus Christ, bro. Come on, bro. Enough. He keeps playing the video on
also
repeat.
shoots at, but misses the unarmed jump kick man. And the latter incidents involving Grosskreutz and
Bro, there's like 3 different instances where, he shot the fucking unarmed jump kick man. The unarmed jump kick man, like, the fact that he shot and he missed him shows you that, like, he is irresponsibly unaware of how much power he has in his fucking hands, dude. That's it. He's shooting at fucking unarmed people. You can't do that. Like, just because you have a gun, you can't fucking do that. And there's a reason why it's not enough to just say, I was scared for my life. That you have to also say, I was scared that he was going to take the gun away from me. Okay? Future chief of police
happened perhaps a few hundred feet away from several dozen police officers. It's not surprising that the people who pursued Rittenhouse thought he was an active shooter who needed to be stopped. But the only question in this particular case was whether Rittenhouse's actions could possibly
have
been reasonable. Because remember, the standard is that the jury must find that there is no reasonable doubts that it wasn't self-defense. It's possible, if not probable, that both Rittenhouse and the people he killed were simultaneously acting in self-defense. The fog of war is a real thing. Reasonable beliefs can be mistaken. The jury was accurately, based on the law, told that they had to determine whether Rittenhouse's belief was reasonable based on the circumstances. And this reminds me of the story of Gabby Giffords and Joe Zamudio. When Giffords was shot at a political rally, Joe Zamudio, who was legally armed, came running to help when he heard the gunfire that injured Gabby Giffords and killed 6 others in Tucson. By the time that Zamudio came to the scene, unarmed civilians had already tackled and disarmed the perpetrator. Zamudio later said that in his confusion, he was within seconds of shooting one of the people that was helping, not the shooter himself. This is an issue that champions of Rittenhouse should grapple with. If Rosenbaum or Huber or Grosskreutz had killed Kyle Rittenhouse, they might have been justified in using self-defense under the law. Again, reasonable minds might differ on this, but any system that incentivizes rule by the last person standing, that is, killing the only person who might dispute your claim of self-defense, that seems, well, suboptimal. To this point that my notes simply say, vigilantism is bad. And I stand by that. I also worry that is becoming a controversial position. Net, bringing guns to a protest is bad. Anyone that brings it, not just...
No, he said that the fucking video is safe. I'm here. There's another video that's coming up, but it's safe.
Kyle Rittenhouse. But there's a large strain of people that simply say that Kyle Rittenhouse shouldn't have been there, and that's the reason that he can't use self-defense. And by most accounts, Kyle Rittenhouse meets the definition of a vigilante. But whether Kyle Rittenhouse should have been there in the first place isn't relevant to the question.
No, the video to the end is not safe. There's still points that are coming up. There's like 1933, there's 1850, there's like different parts. Hey, I know it's unrelated, but did you hear the UK government has officially recognized squid and octopuses as sentient beings? So don't worry, Cthulhu comes for us all, donkey possum. This is why I love Twitch. This is why I wouldn't change it for anything else in the world, okay? Like, this is why I love my job and what I do. This is literally the reason, because chat will say anything. We could be like going through an incredibly complex, traumatic a court case that's like a matter of national news for months now. And someone will just come in and be like, dog, you got to figure out, you got to hear about this octopi, sentient beings in the UK now.
Of whether he legally met the definition of self-defense in the first place. Just simply possessing a gun by itself doesn't prevent the application of self-defense. And there are, of course, larger social issues here as well. Many have claimed that it would have been impossible for a black person to kill 2 people, injure a third, and fire at a fourth, and live to walk away from the scene, as Rittenhouse did. And then, of course, to be found not guilty. And we can probably evaluate whether this is true or not. One way to look at this is by studying the data on how juries perceive self-defense. A study by John Roman found that homicides with a white perpetrator and a black victim are 10 times more likely to be ruled justified than cases with a black perpetrator and a white victim, and the gap is larger in states with stand your ground laws. And after accounting for a variety of confounding factors, such as whether the victim and perpetrator were strangers, the gap is smaller but still significant. Cases with a white perpetrator and black victim are 281% more likely to be ruled justified than cases with a black perpetrator and white victim. But
very interesting. I mean, dude, but like, come on, guys. By the way, the funniest thing is like for the past couple of months, every fucking little virgin incel shitter on the fucking internet, okay? Every turbo nerd who like loves the debate was talking about how this is not a racial case, or this has nothing to do with race, or that oh, if he was black, blah, 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 like this would have never happened. You guys are silly for saying that. Everyone that said that, like even Kyle Rittenhouse recognizes that like that's a good PR thing to say, the opposite of. But all of you fucking perpetually online debate lord loving fucking the bloodthirsty weirdos cannot comprehend basic human cognitive functioning and empathy. Okay? And that's why y'all come across like fucking weirdos. And that's also why the only way that like people will take you seriously or pay attention to you is if you're like fucking shitting on someone else by clip chimping them or some shit. Okay? You come across like psychopaths, but not even like the cool American psycho kind. If you want to know why there's so many shitters, D is just listening or VOD on a stream. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I don't know why that's like allowed, but hey, what are you going to do? I guess it's all right to send your fan base over here to try to fucking harass because I'm much larger, so it doesn't matter. You should probably stop doing that though. I don't want you to do that if you're watching or if you're listening. I will be pressing charges. Anyway, let's keep going.
Systemic issues like that weren't on trial here. You don't adjudicate those kind of systemic issues in a criminal court of one individual. The issue is whether Kyle Rittenhouse engaged in self-defense, or more specifically, whether the
Look at that. As a Molotov cocktail,
prosecution
dude.
disproved the possibility that he used self-defense. And for what it's worth, there are lots of people who think that Kyle Rittenhouse's actions were not self-defense. There are...
Where is it? 1933.
Lots of other reasonable people who think that Kyle Rittenhouse's actions were self-defense. Now, I doubt all of those people in both of those groups watched 100% of the trial, then spent days poring over the jury instructions like the Kenosha jury did. But the thing is, if reasonable people really could conclude that this was self-defense, then it means that the prosecution didn't prove self-defense beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the definition of reasonable doubt. Now, that being said, an acquittal doesn't mean that Kyle Rittenhouse didn't do it. It doesn't mean that what Kyle Rittenhouse did was right. And the pathology of Kyle Rittenhouse's hagiography is another issue entirely. And it certainly doesn't mean that he did nothing wrong. It just means that the jury didn't think that the prosecution proved self-defense beyond a reasonable doubt. And while you can't necessarily infer it from the jury's decision, it might be the case that Kyle Rittenhouse did nothing legally wrong. But under the most favorable interpretations of the facts, Kyle Rittenhouse brought gasoline to a match party, and people are now dead as a result. He made a bad situation worse. And let's face it, if someone uses non-deadly force against you while you are carrying a gun, it's more likely to turn deadly. Rosenbaum, Jump Kick Man, and arguably Huber used non-deadly force, which would not in the abstract trigger a reasonable belief of imminent harm. Which is not to say that unarmed people can't exercise deadly force or create a reasonable belief of imminent deadly harm. They absolutely can. Indeed, it appears that the jury believed Rittenhouse's testimony that they were going for his gun or grabbed his gun in an attempt.
Yeah, I wonder why. I mean, certainly, like, them not being considered victims, for example, and instead them being considered, rioters and looters, or could be considered rioters and looters. Kyle Rittenhouse's, like, prior point of view. This part has no blood or TOS in it. Just hold on. I mean, I wonder if that, like, factored into why the jury could reasonably assume that this, good, innocent, wholesome boy was simply there to defend the empty fucking car lot. And that's actually a totally normal thing to want to do. And that this good, wholesome, innocent boy was reasonably afraid that the gun he brought to that fucking protest was going to be used against him and, dare I say, others. Oh, no. Look at that picture. He isn't just hitting him with a board. He's grabbing for his gun. Dog, he's literally trying to stop an active shooter. Are you fucking stupid? Also, the gun is literally strapped to his fucking chest. He's trying to pin him and the gun down. $300 in that lot was said in court. Doesn't fucking matter how many. It doesn't matter. It's a car lot that he is not associated with. And so the gas station is bullshit too. That's why I keep saying this is like when America says, "Oh man, other countries can't have nukes. They'll be irresponsible with the nukes. They'll use it on humans." It's like, you know, kind of weird that you're saying that since you're the only country that's ever fucking used nukes on humans. Like, oh man, Kyle was really worried that, you know, people would irresponsibly use his gun against others. Bitch, you're the one who's using the gun. You're the only motherfucker who shot and killed people that night. Okay? That's why I kept saying, like, you know, if school shooters could just be like, hey, as long as someone triggers the self-defense case for the school shooter, they can get like all the fucking legal kills after that. People try to apprehend him, people try to stop him. What you're supposed to be doing in a school shooting is apparently just like avoid the school shooter. I know that they say if it's safe enough, you can try to, you know, rush the shooter. But only when it's safe enough. Well, guess what? You're not supposed to do that apparently, because in that circumstance, you will be confirmed a legal kill. What do you think about all the idiots calling him a hero? They're fucking losers, dude. They're absolute pathetic fucking losers. Just like Kyle Rittenhouse is a pathetic fucking loser who wanted to have some fun. Okay? He wanted to have some fun. He wanted to put himself in a fucking dangerous situation. The difference between him and like all of those fucking, you know, the anarchists, the 5 fucking anarchists that go to like every protest or whatever that Republicans love pointing to, that want to like fuck shit up. The difference between those guys and him is that he actually killed people and got away with it. Those motherfuckers have like broken a window of a Starbucks. That's the difference. This is the opposite side of that, and it's significantly more violent. You mean Representative Kyle Rittenhouse R? Oh, for sure. So you want the laws changed into what? It's clear this was self-defense under the current law. It's not. It's not a fucking clear-cut case. If it was a clear-cut case, they wouldn't have had to fucking establish that, one, he was there to truly defend a fucking private property and that he needed to have a gun there. And they wouldn't have needed to fucking drop the misdemeanor carry charge that comes along with a 17-year-old open carrying in a fucking protest, or just open carrying in general. If it was such a fucking clear-cut case of self-defense, they wouldn't have done everything in their fucking power to make it seem like it wasn't just that the person was lunging at them, that person genuinely wanted to grab his gun and shoot him with the gun. Because guess what? I know that a lot of you genuinely think like, oh, just lunging at a person means that you can fucking pop them with a goddamn rifle. But that's not the case. That's not a clear-cut instance of self-defense. Okay? Holy fuck. And this is before we even talk about how fucked the laws are, okay? And how fucked the situation is that you can go to a protest with a fucking AR-15. That's psychotic. That you can actually go to a protest with an AR-15, and if someone is like threatened, or if someone fucking comes at you, you can shoot them. That's psychotic. And then once you do shoot someone and you've become an active shooter, then other people trying to stop you can also get killed with a free kill. Those two people that you see are fucking heroes, okay? And there are so many people that just literally are like, well, one of them open hand slapped his grandmother, so he deserved to be fucking murdered. Like, it's just insane. The things that people have been saying on the internet have been fucking psychotic. The first guy was a pedophile, okay? He was a convicted sex offender. His brain was fucked up, okay? He had just come out of a mental health facility. I get that. But guess what? We do not know if he was going to kill anyone, okay? The only person that killed people that night, the only person that was actually completely a fucking threat to others, wasn't the child molester. It was Kyle Rittenhouse. That doesn't mean he's a good person. It just means that you can't just fucking pop people with a weapon and then be like, well, if they're a child molester after the fact, then, you know, post-mortem, we'll make that assessment. Cops do this shit all the time. And psychotic reactionary conservatives defend cops for doing that shit all the time. You don't have to be a fucking angel to not get murdered in the street, okay? And the reality is, because of our laws being so fucked as they are, if the other dude with the gun shot Kyle Rittenhouse, he would have gotten away with it as well. Okay? And one could even make the argument that there is a more reasonable situation. Because Kyle had already shot someone and killed someone at that point. Was his prior record used in trial? No, of course not. You can't do that. These people are fucking using it here to justify it, though. He said he was going to kill him as Kyle was running away, which makes it legal self-defense. That's not true. It's not true. Even in that instance, that's not true. It's a gross escalation. Anyway. Keep going.
Attempt to take his gun and use it against him, and in a huge stretch in Rittenhouse's speculation, take his gun and use it against others. Now, those arguing that but for Kyle Rittenhouse being present with his gun, these shootings wouldn't have happened are right. However, but for causation, or what we call sine qua non causation, doesn't rise to the level of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. It's necessary for a conviction, but it's not sufficient. Now, I've seen lots of people say, quote, the jury reached the right verdict. Now, there is a strong version and a weak version of that statement. The weak version is that the jury was correct to find that there was reasonable doubt that Kyle Rittenhouse didn't use self-defense. However, the strong version is that the jury proactively found him innocent or even a hero. But assuming we're going with the weak version, it's entirely possible that the jury verdict accurately reflects the law of Wisconsin. I've never seen a politician run on a platform of installing a duty to retreat in the law. If Wisconsin had a duty to retreat, the outcome of this case very well might have been different. Stated differently, if this had occurred in Massachusetts, the law could have militated a different result, though admittedly, maybe reasonable minds might differ on that as well. Maybe Kyle Rittenhouse retreated at every possible opportunity. But I will leave it to you and by proxy your politicians as to whether that is a good thing or a bad thing. Though I'll point out that for those that are happy that Kyle Rittenhouse was found not guilty, they should recognize that logically, they should also be in favor of an alternate reality where Gage Grosskreutz shot and killed Kyle Rittenhouse. And remember, if you think that Rosenbaum, Huber, or Grosskreutz all provoked a response from Kyle Rittenhouse, Rittenhouse's use of deadly force probably gave them the right to use deadly force right back under the same laws. Under current Wisconsin law, if Kyle Rittenhouse is not guilty by reason of self-defense, Gage Grosskreutz would also have been not guilty if he had shot and killed Kyle Rittenhouse. And keep in mind that in this scenario, Kyle Rittenhouse is dead, and it would have been Grosskreutz setting the narrative. And to the extent that you think Grosskreutz would have crafted his testimony to support an argument of self-defense, then consider that Kyle Rittenhouse probably crafted his story in exactly the same way. So the ultimate takeaway here is that these incidents are murky at best. Occurred in a jurisdiction with very broad self-defense and firearm laws. The prosecution had a very high standard to meet, and while we didn't cover it in this video, the defendant put on a very good defense. The rest, I will leave to you. Now,
well, that's what you do when you fucking raise a gajillion dollars and can do not one but two mock trials where you test out, where you A/B test, putting Kyle Rittenhouse on the stand to offer testimony in which he cried so beautifully, and everybody was like, that's PTSD symptoms, I can't believe you're fucking minimizing that. Meanwhile, in the process, he was still shooting a fucking documentary for Tucker Carlson and certainly did not have that same kind of emotional traumatic PTSD response when he was retelling the exact same fucking night on the Tucker Carlson broadcast that we watched earlier tonight. But hey, maybe his PTSD was cured in a matter of moments. Beautiful ending to this story. Anyway, but of course, the criminal justice can't get anything wrong ever. Obviously, that's not a thing. O.J. Simpson, that wasn't the criminal justice system fucking up Casey Anthony. That wasn't the criminal justice system fucking up. That could never happen, dude. Well, And if you are of the mindset that, you know, you shouldn't bring up race in this situation, and like a black person, you have no idea whether or not a black person would have had a totally separate situation or a totally separate involvement or a totally separate outcome, well, then fucking Kyle Rittenhouse doesn't agree with you either, apparently. Your own God does not agree with you. Was that weird that the defense admitted that they had done mock trials with Kyle being on the stand as a variant? No, this is a flex, dude. That's a flex, homie. That's what that was, okay?
Now, if you'd like to watch something legal that's much more lighthearted, I'd recommend my mini documentary Bad Law.
Okay, we're done with this. And I have maintained the position that, like, this is a really dangerous precedent. And that precedent isn't simply self-defense, stupid. The precedent is, like, if you fucking bring a gun to a protest and the other side also has a gun at the protest, he who shoots first kind of wins the self-defense argument. Okay?